Tanse, I'm Chris. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The search for a Cree woman who went missing from Big River First Nation in Saskatchewan on June 5th has been found deceased. According to Big River RCMP, human remains were found last Friday on July 18th in a remote rural area west of the small town of Victor. On Tuesday afternoon, RCMP confirmed in a press release that the remains belong to 40-year-old Sherry Michelle Aheneque. The Aheneque family has been notified and victim services is being provided. RCMP says Aheneque's death is considered suspicious in nature, and they're asking anyone who knows what happened to Aheneque to come forward and call RCMP or Crime Stoppers. In a statement posted to social media, Aisha Aheneque, the daughter of Michelle Aheneque, said, "This has all been a lot to process. The remains that were found were confirmed by RCMP to be my sweet mother. She was not burnt. She was not dismembered. These were all horrible rumors. First, I want to thank God, then thank all of who helped search, cook, and who came to sit with us. Also, thank you all for following my mother's case and for constantly sharing my posts. I appreciate and love you all." The family says funeral arrangements are now underway and a funeral will be held on Friday, but they did not provide a location. Michelle Aheneque was from the Sapotaweyak Cree Nation near Shell Lake. The town of Victor is just on the outskirts of Big River, the First Nation where Aheneque went missing. A man is dead and another person has been arrested in a northwestern Manitoba First Nation. According to the Swan River RCMP, on July 10th at 12:30 a.m., they were called to a home in Sapotaweyak Cree Nation for a report of an injured male. A 57-year-old man was found in critical condition. He was pronounced deceased on scene, and his death was investigated as a homicide. A 20-year-old man who knew the victim was taken and arrested at a nearby home. On July 19th, Mounties charged Santana Janelle on Sapotaweyak Cree Nation with second-degree murder. Sapotaweyak is located 450 kilometers north of Brandon. Janelle is still in custody, and the RCMP say the investigation is continuing. The City of Toronto says it is preparing to move forward with an on-site investigation after ancient Indigenous remains were discovered in the city's Riverdale neighborhood nearly 2 years ago, even as one group threatens to shut down construction in the area amid concerns about the way the matter has been handled. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has more.
For more than a year and a half, this water pipe upgrade site along Withrow Avenue has sat untouched.
I recognize that this has taken longer than we would have liked, but given the criticalness of the situation, we need to ensure we are doing this right.
The work site frozen in time, just like the human remains discovered here in January of last year. Those remains determined to be historical in nature, the area a known settlement site of several First Nations groups.
Archaeological evidence shows that we have 600 generations of settlement.
Following provincial protocols, work on the site was immediately halted. 11 First Nations groups were notified. 10 of those groups have consented to a burial site investigation, but representatives of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy have not.
The group of individuals calling themselves HDI, the Haudenosaunee Development Institute, have no rights here. These are not their lands. They have no treaty here, and they have no ancestral connection here.
That's not the case, say representatives of the Haudenosaunee who alerted the media that the found remains have been kept in a city truck since they were found more than 18 months ago.
Our rights should include, and do include, in fact, the right to make sure that our ancestors don't end up in a dump truck for over a year.
At this point, it's not known how many people are buried in the area. Archaeological officials say when work begins, they will dig in a grid pattern of 1 meter squares from the site out. So you don't investigate? Sorry,
Thank you so much. That's great. That was all the questions.
But officials shut down the press conference before answering questions about what would happen if the site expands to places like driveways, lawns, or the street. For those who live in the area, that is just one concern. Another is what could happen if work goes ahead without the consent of all 11 groups.
We don't know where the truck is, but certainly we know where the site is, and certainly we're capable of putting people on that site to exercise rights. And if the exercise of those rights interfere with the burial site investigation, that's not our problem.
The city says preliminary planning work for the site is complete and site work is expected to begin shortly, even without the consent of that 11th group. However, the HDI says they have emails from the archaeological firm saying they will not begin without all-party consent. Meanwhile, the cost of providing 24-hour private security to ensure no one disturbs the site is approaching the $400,000 mark. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
More communities in northern Saskatchewan have been ordered to evacuate this week due to wildfires. The evacuated communities include Canoe Lake, Canoe Narrows, the northern hamlets of Coal Bay and Jans Bay, the resort subdivisions of Lac La Plonge and Little Amiot Lake, the villages of Beauval and Pine House, Isla Cross, Montreal Lake Cree Nation, La Plonge Indian Reserve, and Pachinak and English River First Nation. As of Tuesday, the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says there are 2,800 evacuees with 11 communities under evacuation order, and there are now 50 active wildfires burning throughout the province. Environment Canada says widespread smoke will continue to be an issue in Saskatoon on Wednesday. So far, there has been 385 wildfires in Saskatchewan this year, compared to 407 for all of last year. Flooding at one of Regina's oldest and premier hotels is forcing the hotel to move its guests. The Hotel Saskatchewan on Victoria Avenue in Regina says flooding began Sunday night. Cleanup is underway with no timeline given when it will be complete. Guests are being moved to the Delta Hotel for the time being. The cause of the flooding is not known at this time. However, there have been a weekend of severe thunderstorms that brought flooding to many communities there. A man from a First Nation in Ontario has been charged after 2 children were hospitalized after they accidentally ingested cannabis edibles. According to the Anishinaabe Police Service, on March 22nd, police responded to a home in Sagamok First Nation. When police arrived, they found 2 children under the age of 5 had consumed large cannabis gummies that were left on a plastic bag on a table. Each gummy was the size of a cell phone, and one child consumed an entire gummy, and the second child ate half a gummy. Both children were experiencing cannabis toxicity and were transported to hospital to the ICU. They have since recovered and were released from hospital. A 45-year-old man from Sagamok First Nation has been charged with 2 counts of criminal negligence causing bodily harm. The Anishinaabe Police Service says hospitals have seen an increase in calls related to accidental poisonings from cannabis, with many cases involving kids under 12 years of age. Police are also warning the public to keep all cannabis edibles out of reach of children. Artist Jackie Travers is up next to give us a tour of her new art gallery in North Winnipeg. Stay with us. Welcome back. Sporting just 2 wheels and generally pulled by an ox, a traditional Red River cart is a unique yet simple fixture from the past. While it is rare to see one today, one brand new cart is now on display in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, telling the story of the province's rich Métis history. CTV's Damien Smith with more.
I can't think of anything more iconic and really early transportation than the Red River cart.
In a museum full of Canadian transportation history, one new artifact was added over the weekend. Red River carts like this one helped Métis people carry all kinds of goods around the rugged Canadian prairies throughout the 1800s.
It is the economic driver of all the commerce before steam engines and motorized technology on the prairies.
In their heyday between around 1850 and 1870, the carts could carry up to 1,000 pounds of essential items all over the prairies. Carts would carry traders as far north as the Athabasca River and as far south as St. Louis in the United States.
And the Métis homeland is huge. It's 5 times the size of the continents of Europe. You know, it takes up of all of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and parts of BC and into the northern parts.
Well, the unique features on those, like the wheels are wrapped in buffalo rawhide.
Rich Pickering and a group of local volunteers came together to build this cart, looking to create the most accurate replica possible, as most real Red River carts have been lost to time.
We sourced the wood locally and we put it all together. and ended up with the cart. We used original tools. At some times we also used some modern tools. The biggest challenge was getting everything cut and fit properly. There's no screws, there's no bolts, everything's put together with joints.
The group behind the cart hopes this can be the first of more Métis artifacts in the museum. Future additions the new Southern Plains Métis Local 160 hopes to see include a Chippewa freighter canoe and a York boat, which are two other transportation methods that made Métis trading possible in the 1800s. Damian Smith, CTV News, Moose Jaw.
A renowned Winnipeg visual artist has opened up her own art gallery in Winnipeg's North End neighborhood. Jackie Travers says art is best seen in person, up close and personal. Our APTN reporter Sav Jonza went to the grand opening to check out the eye-catching works of art.
Jackie Travers puts her soul into her art.
There's a light around them because they're spirits, eh? Yeah. And they're growing from the earth.
The Anishinaabe artist from Winnipeg says you need to see art up close and personal to get the full effect of its brush strokes, textures, and vivid hues.
You can't capture the colors and the intensity of the work through a photo. It's so much better seeing it in person, and for people to be able to come here and just even look at the art will be huge for the area and for me to have people come view my work.
It's why she is so excited to finally open up her own art gallery, Creative Native, in Winnipeg's North End neighborhood. It's been quite a journey to get here, but now it's a dream that has been realized after years of increasing success.
Like, I grew up with my granny. Sometimes I remember living just on the next street over, So I have a lot of good memories here from childhood, and typically people don't associate art with the North End. So I'm really glad to be bringing art to the North End.
She's grateful to have so much room to work on multiple projects at once and host painting classes for others to hone their creative skills.
And this piece here, I'm really, really in love with. This piece is about the women that were in the landfill, eh? So, yeah. It built a lot of community, what the people had to go through, And it's a shame that had to happen, but I want to portray those women and the spirits of those women in the most beautiful way.
A humble person, Travers wasn't sure if anyone would show up at her grand opening. But once the doors opened, the space that once felt so large became crowded with enthusiasts.
Dance of the Matriarch. It's beautiful. Yeah.
I think the art is really nice. It's beautiful. I wouldn't mind having a couple of these arts in my place.
Travers says all she ever wants to do is paint, but after creating her own textiles, partnering with a clothing brand, and filming a show for APTN, she can't help herself from looking at what opportunity is next to come with her new space.
If I could hand build with clay and get myself a little kiln for the basement, that would be one of the next things on my list of things to do.
Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great story, Sav, and congratulations to Jackie. We now want to tell you about this week's new web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you think the federal government will adequately consult with Indigenous peoples on development projects of national interest? Your answers are yes or no. Go to our website at www.aptnnews.ca/polls to have your say. We recently spoke with Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Gold-Masti on her take on the Premier's meeting on Monday with chiefs and last week's meeting between chiefs and the Prime Minister. That interview when we come back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. St. John's 18, Charlottetown 24. Cartwright 15, Happy Valley Goose Bay 20. 21 in Quebec City, Saguenay 20 and sun there. Sunny in Ottawa 26, Toronto 23. 25 in Elliott Lake, Wawa, rain and 18. Puckatawagan 18 and sunny there, Thompson, smoky and 17. Barons River 20, Gimli 19. 16 in Regina, North Battleford 13 and sunny there. Uranium City 14 and sun, Stony Rapids 13. 25 in high level and showers there. Fort Chipewyan 22. 28 in Lethbridge. Red Deer 25 and rain there. Tofino 17. Penticton showers and 30. Prince Rupert 15. Smithers 27. 17 in Watson Lake. Dawson 19 and showers. Rain in Fort Simpson at 27. Wati partly cloudy and 24. Inuvik 17. Fort McPherson 20 in showers. 13 in Baker Lake. Rain in Chesterfield at 15. And Arctic Bay 6. Aglulik 10 and partly cloudy. It's been a busy summer for new Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Golmasti. She has had to deal with a heavy wildfire season that has impacted Indigenous communities across Canada. There is also the Liberal government's passage of its controversial economic development legislation Bill C5. And to top it all off, there is talk of an austerity budget in the fall with cuts to Indigenous Services Canada. We recently spoke with Minister Mandy Golmasti from our studio in Ottawa. Here's that interview. Thanks for joining me today, Minister Golmasti. Along with the Prime Minister, you will be meeting with Inuit leaders in the Northwest Territories later this week. How does the government plan to address some of their concerns about Bill C5?
Thank you, Wajak Creason. We had a really interesting conversation last week. I think it was one that was very frank. It was constructive for me as a minister to understand, what's the Indigenous lens on Bill C5. And tomorrow we will be traveling up to Inuvik. I'm very excited to be traveling to Inuit territory and to have this conversation, I think, with a different lens on. The governance and the approach and the relationship with federal government is not the same in both of those contexts. So I am expecting that, we'll be hear some new messaging, some new concerns. But of course, I think there's also new areas of interest.
Really briefly here, Minister, I want to hear your takeaway from the meeting from last week between the Prime Minister and the Chiefs.
I think last week it was a very frank discussion. I'm really pleased that Indigenous leadership got to hear directly from the Prime Minister. He was there for the duration of the meeting. It's a learning experience for this government. We're a new government. We have a new Prime Minister. This is a new kind of relationship that's being developed. I do think that there was, a lot of challenge in the subject, understanding what the expectation is, understanding what the next step forward is. But this was a first conversation, and for me, gave me a lot of information to reflect on. And there's going to be those follow-up tables, regional discussions, engaging more at the community level, coming to understand what is the approach, provincially with the relationship to the Indigenous communities that are within those provinces. How are we going to look at that lens moving forward? Still a lot of work to do. Of course, always room for improvement. Nothing's perfect, but I think moving forward, I feel better equipped with the feedback that I heard from participants to really have conversation and engagement that is tailored to the expectations and needs of the communities.
Minister, let's turn to the wildfire season. It seems like over the past few years, there have been a number of bad wildfire seasons, and First Nations are usually the worst impacted. Can you explain how Ottawa can lessen some of the impacts for those First Nations?
I think that Ottawa has been really reacting and really responsive to, the concerns of the wildfire season. It is unprecedented. It is on a scale that we've never seen before. There are many communities directly impacted. I want to thank my colleague, Minister Osevsky, and the other ministers that have really participated in this process to respond to First Nations communities. There's 4 parts of dealing with fire season. There's that initial evacuation. There's taking care of evacuees while they're at site. There's the next step of getting them home. And then, of course, there's addressing the long-term impacts of what happens when you are evacuated and when your territory is impacted by forest fire. So there's a lot of ongoing work that I think you'll see coming out of this process. It really speaks to the need to have a longer conversation post-fire season, sitting down with First Nations leadership and asking them, how can we better equip you moving forward? I think that we have to really acknowledge this is the new reality, that climate and climate change is impacting First Nations in a very different way. I'm very pleased to hear from my colleague, Minister Olszewski, that climate resilience is something that's at the forefront of what she wants to do in serving First Nations, and I support and echo that. And that's one of my concerns as a minister in moving forward. How can we better equip communities to be the frontline response? How can we support them in this process? And what are their needs? Should this occur in the future? Hopefully not, but should it occur again, we want to be sure that we are working seamlessly in alignment with each other. And that also includes the approach at the provincial level. How can my counterparts and I have a discussion that is inclusive of First Nations needs, and how can we collaborate and enhance working together?
And Minister, there have been reports in the media that ISC will have to reduce its spending by as much as 15% in the next budget. How do you plan to do this without sacrificing education, healthcare, and many other services Indigenous people desperately need?
I think that these stories were very rampant in the media. I was aware that this information was shared. For me at ISC, we are really looking at ensuring when we have this discussion around budget and this budget exercise, our criteria is to make sure that we're not touching programs and services. For us, that means, we will see the sunsetting of some programs that were on an agreed period. That agreement has come to the end of life, so they will likely not be renewed. I'm also looking at, what is the effectiveness and efficiency of some modes of operation. We're looking at department reorganization, and I think the way that we serve our clients at ISC is one that really needs to be adjusted. So for me, really having this one window approach where community can come to ISC through one portal, talk about all of their issues, be supported directly, with Frontline, with somebody that's very aware of all of the needs across the community's territory or nation. That's really critical to be able to offer that service. So that means, some restructuring will be done, and our priority is always going to be responding to the community's needs. And for us to do that, we have to do a self-assessment. How are we operating and how can we offer a better service? Does that mean that there's going to be a reduction in service? I don't think so. For me, my priority is enhancing service. It does mean that there may be a change in how we offer that service, but for us, my priority is really to make sure that we are responding to our clients' needs and that we are offering service in the best possible way for those needs.
Minister Mandy Golmasti, will have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Wajah.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday. We're back again for your evening newscast in a few hours with more stories. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.